Hi everyone, welcome to another Adobe Photoshop tutorial. Welcome to my I Am Photo Videoist YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me here, and what I'm going to be covering in this tutorial is how to do frequency separation. I know there's a lot of frequency separation tutorials out there, but some are, very complicated. This one I'm going to make it so simple, very easy, as basic as I can. So it's easier for you to understand, and then you can probably advance yourself later on. Without further ado, I would like to go on with it. As you can see, this is the photo that I took a while back. Right now you'll see one layer in here. I named it base, so just so we can just separate it from the before and after photo that we're going to do. So the base will be the after photo, so we can compare it from before. Frequency separation is to basically separate two frequencies. One is the color frequency and the other one is the texture frequency. The purpose of this is so you can smooth out the skin much better than smoothing it out in one layer. It's very tough to smooth out the skin, and then you lose the texture and such. So this way you can retain the texture when you smooth out the skin. For example, I'll go ahead and zoom in here. You can see that she's got textures in her skin. Let me see. There you go. Obviously, like a tiny textures in there, that kind of stuff. So you want to retain that, and but at the same time, we want to smooth it in. So if you smooth this thing in on this layer, or however many layers you want to create, it's going to be really tough. So what we want to do is want to smooth out the color of her skin while retaining this detail. So anyways, so right now we only have one layer, which is the base layer. What we want to do is we want to create a new one. So we would basically duplicate this. You right click it, and then you click on duplicate layer. You can name this layer color. Let's name it color for now, because this is the one that we want to blur out. So click OK. So now you have two layers, color and base. And let's do another one. Let's duplicate this layer and rename it to texture. Texture, here you go. And this frequency will be your texture. So we'll get right into that in a little bit. First, you wanna close this eye, basically make it invisible. Turn off that layer. Then we go to color. So right in color layer, you go to filter, and then you click on blur. After blur, you go to Gaussian Blur. Gaussian Blur, a good standard radius of pixels would be either 4 or 3. I mean, you can go as blurry as you want if you want to. You can play around with it, but it's up to you. But to me, my magic number typically is always the 4 or 3. So just enough blurriness, and not really losing too much of the image. So we can click OK after clicking that. Probably might see it's a little blurry now. Here we go. You can see it's a tidbit blurry, right? So now you select on texture. Let's turn on this layer. Turn on that eyeball. Obviously, it's a lot sharper, right? So what we're gonna do is, while this thing is selected, we go to image, and then you go to apply image. Everything turns gray, so don't worry about that. What we want to do is, you want to make sure this is your setup. See this layer that says merge? You click on this, and then you want to apply this image to the color layer. So remember when we created this little layer in here? So you want to apply this image into this color. So that's the plan. So click on color. You see like a little silhouette in here. Obviously, in here, there are times that it's not going to be subtract. There will be probably either normal, that's what it's going to look like, or darken, or whatever. But basically, what you want to do is you want to click on subtract. And the thing about Adobe Photoshop is, the last thing that you did, it saves that settings for you. So that's why when I applied the image to the color layer, it was in subtract. So also, one thing to point out, make sure the RGB, you select RGB channel, and make sure it's the invert is unchecked, okay? Opacity is 100, scale is 2, offset is 128. That's the setup that you want to keep. So now that we applied this texture into the color layer, as you can see in here with the silhouette looking texture in there, you click OK. You probably might think that it's like, well, nothing happened, it made the picture worse, right? So no, that's not the whole purpose of this. I'm going to show you what's next. While you have the texture selected, right on the blending mode, you click on that and then click on linear light. Boom. There you go. It's almost like nothing happened, right? Now let's turn off this layer so you can see the difference. Turning off that layer, it's like, oh, isn't that the color layer that you blurred earlier? Yes, that is it. Now what you did is basically you separated the texture now. So if I turn this thing on, the texture is retained. So now we have two layers, which is one's for texture and one's for color. Then you do most of your work on the color, such as blurring the skin so it'll be a lot more smoother, right? So let me turn on the other layer in here, which is the before and after. Basically, you'll see no difference. I'm gonna move this before over here on the top, right? Let me turn this before off. See the difference? Actually, there's no difference. That's the whole purpose of that, is basically I separated both texture and color. So that's the idea of it. I'm just gonna move this thing back down here. That's only for sample purposes, so you can see what's up with the texture layer and the color layer. So now, in order to clear up that skin, so there you go. What you do next is you want to focus more on the color. So you want to blur out the skin, make it more smoother, right? So you select this color and then you click on the lasso tool. I like to feather it out by 10 pixels, but you can feather it out by 5 pixels if you want. But I wouldn't go too harsh on it, or else it'll probably won't get the corners that you needed. At the same time, you don't want it to be 0 pixels, or else you're gonna the corners would be too harsh. So whenever you try to blur out the image, you're gonna see like a little sudden change of blurriness. So I'll leave it 10 pixels for now. So now what we're gonna do is, obviously, while you have the color selected, the color layer selected, we're gonna go ahead and mark this thing up. So basically, you wanna, this is the part that you wanna soften the skin, and then you hold shift, and draw out this ones over here because I want to soften that area. Hold shift again, and I want to blur this thing out. There you go. There's a little bit of that, and here I want to blur this thing out too so we can smoothen out the skin. Alright, so let's start out with the face, right? So now what you want to do, while the skull is selected and you have this thing selected, let me do this one a little bit too, a little bit in chin. Oh, and if you manage to select areas that you don't want to select, you can just hold Alt key, the Alt key, and then just like do this. Oh, there you go. See, it removes the selection. But anyways, I want that part selected, so I'm gonna go ahead and Shift key and then just mark that. There we go. All right, so now it's time to blur out this part of her face. So click on filter, then you go to blur, and then Gaussian blur. Obviously, the last time you made a change was 4, right? So I mean, 4 is actually pretty good. It clears up. You probably might not notice it actually. You barely see the change, but it's there. You're actually smoothing out the skin. But to me, I normally do 6. That's my magic number. 6 is always my magic number when it comes to it. But if I go bigger, you'll see a big difference. Either 41. So you can suit it to your liking. But there's a big difference. Once we change it up, you'll be like, whoa, that is different. So typically my image number is 6, 6.8, 6.5. So let's click OK, and let's unselect this. Boop. If you want to see the before and after, right? Here's the before. It's like more harsh in texture, right? Because that's the actual photo of the before. Now if I turn this thing off, it smooths out that skin. So let's do it one more time. Whoop, there we go. And then after. All right, now you can do this for the rest part of her body, you know, like the rest part of the skin. But I advise doing it, you know, different radius. I wouldn't do the same thing, or else your picture will look flat. So maybe only a certain area part about it you want to do, like maybe here, the shoulder area, blur that part, and if you want to smooth that out, you can make it 6 as well. So sometimes there's a certain part of the area that you don't want to really smooth out, like this one. Maybe you want to smooth out a little bit of it. There you go. Maybe let's add a little bit more smoothing area. Here we go. Take 6 or 4.6, 4.7. Maybe this part over here too, just a little bit. Yeah, you kind of want to vary this the smoothing part. See, you see that change of smoothness? Yeah. It's kind of tough to see it, but it's there. Maybe let's smooth out this part of here, because smooth out that little highlight over there a little bit. So I'm only doing this for the purpose of sample, okay? It's not like, oh, this is the final image, this is it, this is how it's supposed to do it. No, I'm just showing you the difference so you can see the changes of what's going on. So I like the 6.4. Let's see here. Maybe this one. This one's another good example here. The shadow's kind of harsh there. Maybe the texture is a little harsh too. Just do probably a little bit of it. Let's do that. Yeah, so you can see a difference in there. And just do like a little bit of it. See how it kind of, you know, softens up the image a little bit, the skin texture. And there you go. And I'm gonna go to the before. Boop. You don't really see too much, but it's there. Let me zoom in so you can see the difference. After, before. Let me zoom in again so you can see it. Whoops. Here we go. This is the before, and this is the after. And there you have it, guys. That's how you do frequency separation. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys like this video and subscribe to my channel. And obviously, visit my Patreon site over here, as you can see up on the screen, and follow me on Instagram. And hopefully to see you guys on the next one. Later. As some of you might know, I have a Patreon website. URL is patreon.com/IamPhotoVideoist. Once you get there, you will see different tiers that you can join in. Each of these tiers has different exclusive access, such as glamour photography, fashion photography, and other car photography. I also sometimes would post free stuff, so if you'd like to see some sample of my work. Joining in is easy, just by clicking one of these join button, whichever tiers you'd like to join. Or you can click on become a patron. Thanks for watching.